Ladies and gentlemen, I am induced to take this step.
The water torture cell is an escape created by Harry Houdini in the middle of his career, as he was doing a lot of stage shows, and it was a very dangerous and exciting escape for his audiences in the theater. It was a large rectangular tank of water. The one we used was about 6.5 feet tall by 3.5 feet wide, filled with water. Harry would have his feet locked into a set of foot stocks from the outside, and then he would be raised by his ankles upside down and dropped into the tank, or lowered into the tank. And then the stocks would be locked onto the outside of the tank, and a curtain would be raised around the tank. He would escape, of course, from within. It was a really cool and dangerous escape, something very new to his audiences, something they hadn't seen before, and added, I think, that sort of extra element of terror to his stage shows.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is no smoke and mirrors hocus pocus. I hang before you the greatest escape artist of all time. I am Harry Houdini, and this is the water torture cell.
The whole spectacle of the water torture cell was a huge beast for us to tackle. I had never done any kind of escape like that. In order to get ready to perform it, we got the equipment for the water torture cell several months prior to the opening of the show, and began working on it in a warehouse without water initially. So we worked it without water so that I could get the mechanics of the escape right and learn to do that kind of stuff as quickly and efficiently as possible. We slowly added water so that initially when I went in, my head would be just covered and the rest of my body would be above the water, and I would be out, so that when I panicked or freaked out, I could just raise my head and still be able to breathe. And then slowly added more and more water. Once we got enough water in there for breathing to actually be a factor, the process for rehearsal for the first couple days anyway was basically just putting me in the water and letting me hang there and get used to the feeling of being trapped in that tank, because it was absolutely terrifying. I would go in and be underwater and open my eyes, and the water was right in front of me, and it would of course magnify the tank around me and make me feel like the walls were right in my face, and I could vaguely hear what was going on outside of the tank, but not really, and my feet were locked in. It was a horrifying experience for a little while. So just letting me hang in there and get used to it initially was the first step. Prior to the arrival of the cell, I did a lot of personal preparation. I did a lot of breath work. I quit smoking so that I could sort of expand my lung capacity and learn to hold my breath for long periods of time, so that I could make it through the performance of the trick, but then in case anything did happen, I would have a cushion of air anyway in the tank. I also found it extremely satisfying every night to be able to hang above the water torture cell before I went in. When we had the wax cylinder recording of Harry's voice, that was a speech that he would give before he performed the water torture cell every night. And I would be able to hang upside down while this speech was playing and look out at the audience and watch their reactions to what was about to happen. And see how wrapped up in this event they were. But it was an amazing experience to be surrounded by an audience that was so involved and invested in what was going on at that moment. And I don't remember ever having experienced that on stage. And being able to just sort of watch them slowly be pulled into this bit of spectacle was really, really cool. I mean, I could hang there and watch the people in the audience on all sides start sitting watching, and then slowly creep forward and slowly become a little bit more and more uncomfortable as the speech dragged out until I started to go down, at which point most of the people in the audience were just on the edge of their seats. Children were like hugging their mothers and all kinds of things. It was great. This was supposedly the first reported performance of the water torture cell in the round. The mechanics of the trick don't allow for an easy performance in the round, so that made it a very interesting and trying project to figure out. But it was very fun, and it was definitely a really cool experiment for me as a magician to try and figure out how we could negotiate that, not only being in the round, but being in the round in a way that we were literally 3 feet away from our audience with the water torture cell. Most illusions that use like body switching and appearing and disappearing people and stuff rely on being further removed from the audience and rely on being able to control certain angles of view from the audience, and we didn't have any of that kind of cover. So the water torture cell performed simply as an escape. Could be done in the round without a great deal of problems. What we did at the end of the trick, which was having me appear at a different spot on the stage, away from the water torture cell and in a different costume and all that kind of stuff, was what made it tricky to be performing it in the round, because of course you weren't guarded with the back 3/4 of the water torture cell being covered and out of view of the audience. We had to sort of use other means of escape for me for that stuff. And it was really fun. It was a really cool experiment. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really shocked and amazed that we got away with it the way we did.